14th, 2019, 11:47 p.m. A woman sits cross-legged on her bedroom floor in a quiet suburb of Phoenix, Arizona. Her husband is asleep down the hall. On the laptop in front of her are 312 screenshots, 47 voice memos, and a spreadsheet with 9 columns. The spreadsheet is titled Receipts. Her name is Marissa Hale. Her husband, Daniel, has no idea that for the last 11 months, she has been quietly dismantling his entire life from the inside. By the time she closes the laptop tonight, his career has 38 days left. His credit score has 14 days. His freedom has 71, and he still thinks the marriage is fine. This is how a betrayed wife became one of the most methodical revenge cases ever documented in a U.S. civil court file. Marissa and Daniel met in 2011 at a software conference in Austin. She was a junior data analyst at a regional insurance firm. He was a mid-level systems engineer at a logistics company with a confident smile and a habit of talking over her in group conversations. They married in 2014. By 2018, they had a 4-year-old daughter named Lila, a $480,000 house in the Phoenix suburb of Gilbert, and a routine that looked, from the outside, completely ordinary. But ordinary is a thin layer, and on April 2nd, 2018, that layer cracked. Marissa was driving home from her daughter's pediatrician when she stopped at a gas station 14 minutes from her house. She pulled out Daniel's company credit card to fill the tank. The card was declined. She tried it twice more. Same result. Confused, she called the bank from the pump. The customer service rep told her the card had been frozen that morning at Daniel's request. Then the rep said one more sentence that she would later describe to investigators as the moment everything stopped. The rep said, "It was flagged because of the charges at the Scottsdale Hotel last weekend. Your husband told us those weren't authorized." Marissa had not been at a hotel in Scottsdale that weekend. Daniel had told her he was at a work training in Denver. She thanked the rep, hung up, drove home, and said nothing. That night, after Daniel fell asleep, she opened his laptop. He had never changed the password. It was their daughter's name and the year she was born. Within 20 minutes, Marissa had access to his Gmail, his work email, his iCloud, his Venmo, his hidden Snapchat, and a folder labeled taxdocs_2017 that contained 41 photos that had nothing to do with taxes. Most people in this moment scream. Most people throw the laptop. Most people file for divorce in the morning. Marissa did none of those things. Marissa, the data analyst, opened a fresh Excel file and began to log. Over the next 11 months, she built what she would later call her case file. She copied every photo, every text thread, every receipt, every flight itinerary. She cross-referenced his credit card statements with his calendar invites. She mapped the affair with 3 different women across 14 cities. She identified one of them as a co-worker named Allison. She identified another as the wife of one of Daniel's college friends. She identified the third as a 22-year-old contractor at his company. Each woman got her own tab in the spreadsheet. Each tab had columns for date, location, dollar amount, and what Marissa labeled simply evidence type. She didn't confront him. She didn't cry. She kissed him goodbye every morning and packed his lunch. Then she went further. In June 2018, Marissa quietly opened a new email account in his name with a slight character substitution, a lowercase l instead of a capital I. She used it to set up forwarding rules on his real Gmail so that copies of every email he sent to Allison were silently delivered to her own inbox. She installed a screen time monitoring app marketed for parents on his phone during a moment he left it charging in the kitchen. The app sent her a daily digest of every site he visited and every message he sent on Signal. She wasn't done. In August, she did something that would later become the centerpiece of the federal indictment. She accessed his work laptop while he showered. She did not steal company data. She did something much smaller and much more devastating. She found a folder on his desktop labeled Q3 Forecast, and inside it discovered that Daniel had been quietly inflating revenue projections for a major client account. The numbers didn't match the actual contracts. The gap was roughly $1.4 million. He had been doing it for 2 quarters to hit his bonus targets. Marissa took photographs of the screen, 38 of them. She did not tell him. She did not tell his employer. She filed them. Tab 9 of the spreadsheet. She labeled it insurance. By December 2018, she had what a forensic accountant later described in court as an exhibit binder more organized than most prosecutors produce. 312 screenshots, 47 voice memos recorded from a $19 device hidden in the air vents of his home office, bank statements going back 4 years, GPS history pulled from his Google timeline, a complete reconstruction of 3 affairs and 1 corporate fraud, indexed and time-stamped, and she still kissed him goodbye every morning. The decision to act came on March 14th, 2019. That night, Daniel told her over dinner that he wanted to take Lila on a father-daughter weekend trip to San Diego in April. Marissa nodded and smiled. After he went to bed, she opened the spreadsheet one final time and made the call. A San Diego trip meant unsupervised access to her daughter for 72 hours with a man she now knew was capable of lying to her face for 1,400 days in a row. That was the line. The next morning she filed. What happened over the next 71 days is what makes this case unusual. Most betrayed spouses file for divorce and move out. Marissa filed for divorce, hired a lawyer, and then released her case file in carefully timed waves. Wave 1 was the affair. Her attorney sent a copy of the photos and texts to Daniel's attorney. Daniel was caught completely off guard. He had been preparing a counter-narrative about Marissa being unstable. Within 48 hours of receiving the file, his lawyer dropped that strategy entirely. Wave 2 was the workplace. Marissa anonymously sent the inflated revenue documents to Daniel's company's internal compliance hotline. She included only the financial evidence, none of the personal material. The compliance team verified the discrepancy within 9 days. Daniel was placed on administrative leave on April 24th and terminated for cause on May 8th. He lost his $187,000 base salary, his stock options, his health insurance, and a non-compete clause meant the only field he was qualified to work in was now closed to him for 18 months. Wave 3 was the credit. Investigators later determined that Daniel's identity had been used to open 3 credit lines during the marriage that Marissa had no knowledge of, used by Daniel to fund the affair without trace. Once she discovered them, her attorney filed a fraud report. The accounts were closed. Daniel's credit score, which had been 781 in March, hit 542 by mid-May. He could no longer rent an apartment without a cosigner. Wave 4 came on May 24th. The compliance investigation at Daniel's former employer had escalated. The $1.4 million revenue inflation crossed into wire fraud territory. The company referred the matter to the FBI. On May 24th, federal agents executed a search warrant on the rental house Daniel had moved into 3 weeks earlier. They seized 2 laptops and 4 external drives. He was not arrested that day, but the investigation was now active. Then came Wave 5, the one Marissa later admitted she had hesitated on. In June, her attorney filed for full custody of Lila and submitted the voice memos. The audio captured Daniel on 3 separate occasions over 6 months, speaking to Allison about Marissa in language that the family court judge would describe in his ruling as demonstrating contempt incompatible with shared parenting. Marissa was awarded full physical custody. Daniel got supervised visitation 2 hours per week at a court-monitored facility. By the end of June 2019, in the span of 71 days, Daniel Hale had lost his marriage, his job, his career field, his credit, his house, his daughter, and was the subject of an active federal wire fraud investigation. He moved into his parents' guest bedroom in Tucson at the age of 36. He was indicted in November 2019 on 2 counts of wire fraud. He pled guilty in early 2020 to a reduced charge and was sentenced to 16 months in federal prison, plus $1.4 million in restitution. He served 11 months. When he was released in 2021, he gave a single interview to a local podcast. He said he didn't blame Marissa for the divorce. He didn't blame her for the custody outcome. He said he understood both. What he could not understand, he said, was the timing. The way each piece had landed exactly when it would do the most damage. The way the FBI had shown up 3 weeks after he moved out. The way the credit cards had collapsed the same week he tried to sign a new lease. He said it felt less like a divorce and more like a controlled demolition. Marissa never gave an interview. She still lives in the same house in Gilbert. She still works as a data analyst, now at a different firm. Lila is 10 years old. The Excel file, according to one filing in the divorce case, had grown by the time of trial to 47 tabs and over 4,000 rows. The court sealed it. It has never been made public. In the family law community, the case quietly became a teaching example, not for the affair, for the discipline, for the 11 months of silence, for the woman who, the night she discovered everything, did not scream or cry or text a friend. She opened a spreadsheet, and she labeled the first column, date. Every story has a price. Daniel paid his over 71 days, but the receipts had been gathering in a quiet bedroom in Phoenix for almost a year before he ever knew the bill was coming.